Welcome to The Kitchen Table, a show dedicated to helping you escape diet culture, gain trust with food, honor your body, and live a brighter life. Hello. Welcome back to The Kitchen Table. I am so glad you're here. I'm your host, Alicia Brown, an anti-diet registered dietitian nutritionist. And wow, I have like the best treat in store for you today. I have John Romaniello here with me on the show. I have like little butterflies. He's real. He's here with us. I have looked up to John since meeting him several years ago at a workshop. I got the opportunity to fly to New York City and see him speak at a workshop on storytelling. He is a #1 New York Times bestselling author. He is a well-acclaimed writer, and his writing is, even though maybe it's not deemed poetry, it's poetic. Everything that you write is just poetic. The stories that you tell, everyone can relate to. And I just appreciate you being here because the way that you communicate on social media and everywhere else, even just communicating with you before the podcast, it gets to my heartstrings a little bit. It's like you see me and understand me. And that's kind of the same seeing and understanding that we want to offer ourselves and others, and the ability that we use words to communicate, and really leaning into the power of words and what they can offer us. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here today on the show, the power of words and really being seen and heard in our experience. And so thank you so much for being here, John, today.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for that beautiful and very kind introduction. It means a lot to me. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm really excited to be able to share.
So the power of words, wow, daunting, right? The way that we communicate, the narratives that we recite to ourselves in our mind, like, why should we care about the ways we communicate?
Words create our reality, so much so that they trick us and they fool us. And the things that we say, not only how we say them, but the things that we say about the things they say, or the things we say, are truly constructive, and they will inform our beliefs. And so if I were to say to you, actions speak louder than words, would you agree with me?
Absolutely.
Why would you agree with me?
Like when my husband says like, "Oh, Alicia, I love you." Like, thank you, but show me, right? That's kind of where I go to with that.
Okay. So most people would agree with actions speak louder than words for one reason only. And it's simply because it's a memorable thing that's been repeated over and over. And so the things we repeat in our minds become true. But when you say, "Show me that you love me," what can your husband actually do to demonstrate love for you? And how does he know how to do those things? Because you have to tell him with your words, "These are the ways that I would like you to demonstrate love for me." You see, actions are endemic to all living creatures. Any animal can walk and eat and move and fight and kill and die and shit, but only humans can communicate their thoughts in words. And so we have the ability to let other creatures know specifically what we want, what we feel, what we think, and how we would like them to treat us. And that is entirely due to the power of words. And so when you say to your husband, "Show me that you love me," his answer, very, very honestly, could be, "How?" Yeah. And then you would have to explain. And so his actions will be entirely dependent on your words. And so in the end, are actions really more powerful than words? No, actions only exist. We only empower them. We only grant them power through our words. And the idea that actions are more powerful than words is only true in terms of how we relate to ourselves, right? You want your husband to show you how he loves you. When we say actions speak louder than words, what we really mean is that I believe people are capable of misleading me, Alicia, or me, John, with their words. And how they behave is important because of how it affects me personally. And that is how I will determine whether or not their actions and words are in alignment. But we never stop to ask ourselves, why might there be a misalignment between those two ways of expression? What I think is true from this is now 38 years of writing and observation. Actions and words speak at the same volume. They're sometimes just saying different things. Actions usually tell us where we are. When we speak words that are out of alignment with our actions, that's usually where we want to be. Very rarely when people say, I'm going to do something for you and then fail to do it, very rarely is it the case that when they promised to do it, they were intentionally trying to mislead you. Sometimes people overestimate their abilities or their availability. And so when words and actions are out of alignment, that is where the work exists. And so when people say, when your nutrition clients say, I want to undertake these actions to better my health, and then they do not perform them, we don't look solely at the actions and say, well, you're saying you want something, but you're not doing it, and therefore you don't want it. No, we can accept that they really truly desire those things, and their actions are not in alignment with those words, and that is where we begin as coaches to dig in. Why are those things out of alignment? What is stopping them from taking the actions to fulfill their words? So your words are your highest self. It's what you want. It's where you want to be. And your actions are where you are.
Would you say that our words are also our thoughts too in the same way? Like the words that we don't share with anyone, and they just exist in our mind that form our beliefs that maybe aren't even inherently conscious. Maybe they're like the subconscious beliefs. Like how can we articulate the thoughts in our mind in a way that is synonymous with the actions that we want? That's really what we're getting at, right? How can we have this all be in alignment so we can actually achieve what we're really wanting?
The first thing is to figure out what those nonverbal thoughts are. Because really, what's the word we use for thoughts that exist without words that live inside of us? What's the word?
The word that exists for thoughts that exist without words: feelings.
Feelings and beliefs.
And beliefs.
And if we speak those things into existence, if we do self-auditing, self-analysis, psychoanalysis, journaling, all of these are tools that we assign as coaches, as therapists, as healers, as mentors. We give these tools to other people, to our clients, to our prospects, specifically for one reason, so that they can bring those feelings and beliefs into conscious words and then begin to change them. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, you will call it fate and it will rule your life. And every single coach, every person who works in personal development or self-development or nutrition or even business coaching, we operate on that basic principle. People have, quote, imposter syndrome or self-limiting beliefs, and those beliefs run these invisible scripts. And our goal is, because these things are being spoken in a language that we don't have a name for, right? Our thoughts, our feelings, it's not the conscious level human word that we speak in English or Spanish or Latin or Aramaic. It's this thing that exists that perhaps exists within animals as well. And it's our job to take that writing and begin, that dialogue, internal dialogue, and begin to translate it into the words that we use in everyday speech. And that will demystify it and really begin the process of allowing us to rewrite whatever those scripts are. But until we do that, they're just going to exist internally. And so the first step to being in total alignment, which is that your thoughts, feelings, beliefs are in line with your words and then in line with your actions, you have to take that first step, which is vocalizing those unconscious beliefs. And so it's like taking something in invisible ink and holding it up to the fire and being able to see, this is what I truly believe about myself. And then slowly working through with affirmations, with all of the practices that we give our clients, we can slowly start to change those beliefs through our words and through our actions. And rather than thinking of it purely as a straight line from thoughts and beliefs to words to actions, it's important to think of it as a triangle. It's this triumvirate of things that exist and feed into one another. Because sometimes the easiest way to change a belief is not to talk about it, it's just to do it. If you don't believe you're the type of person who can, let's say, go to the gym every day, if you just start going to the gym every day, somehow, however you do that, whether it's hire a coach, whether it's go with someone, if you can operationally change that action over time, you will believe it because you have what we call evidence. You will see yourself doing it every day. That will begin to override the belief system, and that will filter into the words and then back into the behavior. And so it's this triumvirate of expression.
Where do you think conditioning kind of plays into this? I talk to my clients a lot about diet culture and how we're kind of like inherently given these beliefs from the society that we live in, that like a smaller body is a better, healthier body, or by following X diet, we can get this result that we're looking for. When underneath that, we have like some needs that are maybe not met. And it's how can we kind of layer that into the conversation of like what our beliefs are that we're not exactly aware of yet, and how conditioning plays a role in that?
The same place. We have to discover what those beliefs are. And in doing so, there tends to be a conversation about, well, why do I believe that? And where does that come from? But where most people kind of mess up is never asking that question, never asking, what do I believe, let alone why do I believe it? And what conditioning is, social conditioning, social programming, it is the installation of beliefs into a person that manifests itself in actions and words without this person really approving it. Most of us are going through life clicking yes, accepting terms and conditions for stuff that doesn't benefit us without ever really reading it, and then understanding we have it within us. We have the ability to uninstall that programming. But we have to go through those mental folders. I'm taking this metaphor very far. We have to go through those mental folders and really look at what that programming is and how it interacts with the rest of our personal, emotional, and psychological operating system, and then click uninstall and watch that happen. And we do that by overriding that programming.
And we first, in order to do that, have to bring those beliefs to the surface, put them in a language we can understand through words and through thoughts in order to click unsubscribe to rewrite those programs. And then that, therefore, regarding the triangle, changes our beliefs and our behaviors.
Exactly right.
Cat's pajamas, John. Words are important. Words are important. And also this like element of safety too is important. Like our beliefs, I think, even if we're subscribing to things that we might not totally believe in, things that don't really align with our beliefs, but we act according to them anyway, they can build like this fortress. We can follow diet culture, we can try on all the diets, we can think, if changing our bodies is going to like lead us to this better life, we can subscribe to that, and we end up building like this fortress around ourselves, and we can trap ourselves. And in that trap, we can feel safe. We can feel like, oh, but if I just keep following the diet, if I just keep following these rules and click saying yes, ultimately, like through just grabbing at things, I'll just try to get somewhere. And we can lose ourselves in that process. Are you seeing where I'm going with this?
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
How can we kind of like start to, and maybe you already answered this, but start to kind of like question maybe that conditioning so we can find safety within ourselves rather than kind of the external?
It starts by asking why and approaching that from a 360-degree sort of paradigm. Why and what if. So for example, if people believe I will be happy when I get whatever my perfect body is, you start by asking, well, why? How will your life change measurably if you have that? What if you did have it? Let's paint the world in which you had that body. How do you believe your life would change? And they list out, these are the ways I believe my life would change. And then you ask, why would your life change in those ways? How would it be different? And over time, you really just need to go 3 or 4 levels deep. And then they realize that they actually don't have any of the information. They've just been told that. But they've also given you the exact things that they want, right? People will be nicer to me. I will be nicer to myself.
Exactly.
I will be happier in my own skin. I will feel comfortable. And it gives us a really easy to-do list how and why can you begin to feel comfortable in your own skin without making those changes?
Exactly.
For some people, that conversation is enough. Other people need to get there. Many people I know who, I for those not aware of me, I started in the fitness space many, many years ago. I was a competitive bodybuilder and fitness model. And many people I know who followed that path, it was only upon standing on stage in their underwear, posing at 3% body fat after having spent years upon years building this prison in which their inner child was to live, that they got there and realized, well, now what? Now there's nothing here. And for some people, it's a very satisfying thing to do. I'm giving an example of people for whom it was not satisfying. And some people, they need to get to the top of the mountain, whatever that mountain is, and realize this is not the thing that's going to make me happy. And it happens in every industry. It happens with every set of goals. As a business coach and consultant, I work with people who believe that when they get to 7 figures as a business owner, that's the moment it'll all come together. And then they get there and it doesn't. And then they move the goalposts to 1.5 million or 2 million or whatever else. But it really is the same, whether you're trying to get to 7% body fat or 7 figures or, married by 27 or whatever it is, whatever external piece of achievement you believe is going to fix whatever's inside you and help you feel comfortable. It might be the case you need to get there and find nothing that you then turn inward. But great coaches like yourself or like me, our goal is to help people see along the way that it's not that thing they need.
I think that's true in my experience and for many people listening too. We reach a goal and then it's like, okay, now what? What comes next? And therein lies the quest of how we can better reconnect with ourselves and how many goals does it take to find that the answers were maybe inside us all along.
Yeah.
I mean,
that answer is different for everyone.
Yeah. So in this quest of reconnecting with ourselves, our true purpose, our core identity is beyond weight loss, beyond diet culture stuff. What is something that maybe you could offer the listeners through using the power of words to reframe their kind of mindset, their thoughts, their beliefs? What would you recommend to them to just kind of get started in this process?
Well, the first thing is take control of your thoughts. And the easiest way to do that is just start writing down the things that you want to believe. I'm not a woo-woo person. That's not my thing. I don't want people to, rub crystals.
No crystals, John?
I'm not into crystals. My fiance is.
Me either.
But what I am into is neuroscience and brain science.
Yeah.
And there is a radical shift that happens when you speak things into existence, when you write them down and you say them out loud. You are also hearing them and reading them. And those things really begin to radically shift your belief system and erode your previous beliefs. There's a fantastic book by a guy named Dr. Benjamin Hardy, who is a PhD in neuroscience. And it's called Personality Isn't Permanent. And he makes the argument and shows pretty definitively that personality tests are kind of bullshit. But his argument is really that personality tests are quote unquote dangerous because they give people this evidence, this data that says, well, I'm just like this because I'm a Virgo, or I like this because I'm an ENTP. And from there, they don't feel that they need to or can make any changes to the core of their being. And the reality is that we should be making decisions day to day based on who we want to be, not based on who we think we are. And that starts with the words that we say. And so if I am a person who wants to write a best-selling book, I am not going to do anything other than talk to myself as a person who wants to write a best-selling book. And having that in my head allows me to identify as that. And this works with business goals, it works with self-development goals, it works with fitness goals. And there's something that happens with a change of identity where over time, it's not just a difference in behaviors, right? So as a person who writes best-selling books, the behavior is I write every day. So if I'm not a person who writes every day and I try to inculcate the behavior, daily behavior of writing every day, that is something I have to remember to do every single day. But if I change my self-identification as a person who is a writer, who writes best-selling books, one of the things I do as a writer is I just write every day. I no longer have to remember that. That's automatic. And so when you begin to work on self-identification by saying the words to yourself that a person who does those things would say, and then you take those actions. And so once again, we see how sometimes you start with the words and it feeds into those actions and into the belief system and then back into the actions. And it becomes this self-perpetuating cycle of expression. And I use the word expression very, very intentionally because actions are a form of expression. Belief is a form of expression. Words are a form of expression. And they all can express the same thing. And that's really what alignment is. When your actions, your thoughts, your beliefs, and your words all have this, they express the same thing. That's really what I consider alignment to be. And so journaling, but also daily conversation with other people and hearing yourself say, I'm going to write a best-selling book one day, or I am going to stick to my nutrition plan today. Putting these things out loud, it's much harder to break promises to yourself when you have made them out loud and to other people. And that's why accountability works as well.
I remember you said on your social media at one point, on your Instagram, that like if you make a small promise to yourself and keep it every day, you can start to like build trust with yourself. And in this conversation, you can build trust with yourself if you just say, if you put it out there, put it out into the universe, or tell God or whomever you believe that like, this is what I'm going to do. You'll start to maybe live up to that promise yourself. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. And you can learn to trust yourself and those promises. Your trust is cumulative. And when you make small promises and keep them ad infinitum, then in aggregate, that instills in you the confidence to make larger promises to yourself and to other people. Self-trust is really knowing that I'm going to keep my word. And you just say, I'm going to make my bed. I'm going to make my bed every day. And you start by, but you also know, you acknowledge sometimes you won't make your bed. And that doesn't, the goal is to not have this Monday mindset where if I didn't make my bed today, then I'm not going to make it for the rest of the week and I'll just start strong on Monday. Right. I didn't make my bed this morning, but you know what? At some point I'll go back upstairs and I'll see that my bed is unmade and I'll tidy it up. And it's knowing that you have that 24-hour period to make your bed. I don't have to make my bed first thing every morning, although that's the goal. But if I don't do it this morning, then the promise isn't broken, and then I'm no longer this, then I become this untrustworthy person who never makes their bed. I don't think I never make my bed because I have evidence that I made it the past 53 days. I'll just go back and make it this afternoon. And that's the start of it. I'll make my bed. I'm going to drink enough water today. I'll drink 8 of these bottles today. And you make these little promises. And a person who is able and remembers and keeps the promise to drink 8 bottles of water a day is also a person who has good dental hygiene and brushes their teeth and flosses every day. And they're a person who eats in a nourishing way for their body, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these promises compound. One of my favorite activities is, I'll lead you through it. Is there a skill that you wish you had learned when you were young?
Oh, many. I wish I could have learned to play piano is like my biggest one.
Okay. So let's imagine, how old were you when if you could go back, if you could wave a magic wand and make sure that Alicia at a certain age would have learned to play the piano, how old would that person be?
5 years old.
All right. 5 years old. So how old are you now?
28.
So you're 28. How many hours of practice per week would you have had as a piano player, like starting at 5? Would it be 5 minutes a day, an hour a day?
Maybe, oh yeah, yikes. My attention span at 5 would probably last a half an hour a day of good practice.
Okay. So let's call that 2 hours a week,
Great.
100 hours a year of practice. So that's 2,300 hours of practice. If you could go back and wave a magic wand at 5 years old so that the entire timeline of your history of life would have been altered just slightly So that 2 hours a week would have been spent practicing. And now, as a 28-year-old, magically, you have 2,300 hours of piano practice living in your mind, in your body, in your heart, and your fingers. Would you do that? Would you wave that wand if there are no consequences to doing that?
That's an amazing thought. And yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we
Yeah.
acknowledge that if you could wave a magic wand and make it so that you had 2,300 hours of piano practice, then you would be able to play the piano right now. And you've acknowledged in this conversation it's something you'd like to be able to do.
Yeah.
What I would like you to do now is really sit and ask yourself, can I dedicate half of that time every week starting now? Can I have 30 minutes of piano practice in my life for the next year? And what would that look like? So if it's 30 minutes a week for 50 weeks, that's 25 hours. If you had 25 solid hours of piano practice this year, how good would you be? Probably not very, but what about compared to how you are now?
Yeah. I would learn something new. Yeah.
Why aren't we doing that? You
Yeah.
see people who wish that, I sometimes go back and I'm like, wow, I wish that I had never taken a year and a half off of fitness if I had those extra reps in. I'm like, I'll just get them now. Because the thing is, everything works in aggregate. It's all cumulative. You have a total number of hours between when you're born and when you die, a total number of heartbeats. I don't know. This is a crazy thing to think about. Nobody knows what this number is, but every single heart that's ever been born into a human chest has a total number of beats before it stops. None of us know what that is, but let's assume that from this moment, it's twice the number you've already had. That's a lot of time left to learn any of these skills, to do any of these things. And all we need to do is ask ourselves, would I wave the magic wand that would install in my head 2,300 hours of piano practice? And now, if you start at a half hour a week, how can you chip down those 2,300 hours? And where will you be? And what will you be able to do? And every single one of us can do that.
Yeah.
It starts with saying, I'm going to do that. I'm going to wave that wand every day.
And just start making those little promises to ourselves every day, making that commitment and either having someone help us with that commitment or finding ways to keep that commitment with ourselves to build that trust and to learn new things and to be the people that we want to be.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that practice. That's a great thing to think about. I'm going to mull that over for a while. All the things that I wish I had that I can still do, because time is really the thing that that really forms the basis of this conversation. We have time. How will we use that time? How will we reform our beliefs, our thoughts, and our actions to be in alignment with how we really want to show up in the world? John, thank you so much for your sharing on the show today. And in closing, do you want to share with everyone listening right now? They're all thinking like, gosh, we want to hear more from John. Where can I follow John? What does he do? Where can they find you?
I am on Instagram at just my name, John Romaniello. It's spelled R-O-M-A-N, Roman, like the empire, and then I-E-L-L-O. Most of what I talk about on Instagram these days is communication in some form of another, in all of its various manifestations. I talk about that in terms of how it manifests with relationships and sex, particularly around kink and BDSM. That's an area where I'm helping a lot of people find healing from trauma and shame. I also do it with business in terms of copywriting and presenting your ideas in the way that is going to communicate in the most authentic and effective way to your customers. And of course, we measure that efficacy in terms of revenue and profit. So I help people make more money. And then I do a lot of business consulting around marketing messaging. So I'm on Instagram, whatever it is that you need. If there are some benefits you can glean from being a more effective communicator, I urge you to follow along, and even the things that are not for you will help you. And that is the number one thing my most frequent commenters say. Like, I'm not into the stuff you're teaching, but I'm still getting something from it. And that is greatly satisfying for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, John. Everyone, go follow John Romaniello on Instagram right now. And while you have your phone out, also hit subscribe to the show. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Thanks again, John. And we will see you all on next Monday's episode. Take care.